All right, and we are live. This is the Gnosis Community AMA. We haven't done one of these in a little while, and we're super excited to host one today. We have a bunch of great questions. We are joined by Friederike Ernst, who is the Gnosis co-founder, Julian Nesk from the BD team. We have Stefan, who will join, Stefan George, who's also the Gnosis co-founder. We have Netrim from Karpaki, so a whole crew. And before we start, I just want to mention that Gnosis celebrated its 10-year anniversary this year. So huge milestone, big landmark that we want to celebrate. For over 10 years, or since, what was it, August of 2015, Friederike, Gnosis has been building in the Ethereum ecosystem, accelerating and extending Ethereum for over 10 years. So it was August of 2015, right?
It was, so August 2015 was our on-chain debut, but obviously that was kind of limited by the on-chain debut of Ethereum itself, which went live in very late July, I remember. So kind of we had been building this since the beginning of 2015. So it's been a while.
And we will talk more about that through the AMA. But just also want to mention that we've been building the Gnosis ecosystem over the last 10 years, and Gnosis has always tried to prioritize user agency and has tried to empower the user through its products, through the infra and tools that it's created over the last 10 years. And yeah, let's jump into it. I'm going to hand it over to Julian, who's going to give a presentation about BD efforts at Gnosis. So take it away, Julian.
Thank you, John. Can you guys see my screen? Not sure.
I can't see your screen. If you go to the bottom of StreamYard here and press present.
I have already.
Well, hold on one second.
Let me see. Okay, let me see again. Try again. It goes? No.
No, let me see if I can present your slides. So you can just go ahead and start, and I will try to do that for you.
Let me check something. All right. Well, I will kick it off anyways. So this started with a proposal that Red Guild made on the forum to launch Euro, which is a decentralized Euro stablecoin. It's a liquidity fork. They made a funding request of 50K to. There it goes. Thanks. You go to the next slide. Thank you. They made a funding request on the forum, and there was some discussion about whether if this was a good idea or not, and yeah, some technical things. But there were also a lot of comments about us not giving enough visibility to everyone about what was the vision of Gnosis and how is this aligned with the overall strategy. So then we realized that we actually need to make this clear, and that it would be great to provide some visibility to the to everyone about it. So let's kick it off, and let's take a step back. If you go to the next slide, John, so we can talk about our journey and what are we doing right now. So yeah, as John and Friederike just said, we started 10 years ago as a prediction markets platform, but since then we have widened our scope, and we have developed Safe, we have developed Cow, and now we are on a journey of bridging TradFi and DeFi. We have always believed in bringing financial toolings to everyone, enabling access to a permissionless financial system. And we are in a point in time where there's a lot of toolings in DeFi, a lot of things. However, it's still very complicated to access this for users. So that's a journey that we have started a while ago, mostly with the launch of Gnosis Pay, and we have only went deeper since then. So if you go to the next slide, we're introducing what we're calling real world DeFi, and this is our next stop. And we are dividing this into 3 or 4 categories. Please go to the next slide again. So let's dig a bit deeper into what are these 4 categories of the things that we're working on. We have Gnosis Personal, which is what was formerly known as Metri. It's a Gnosis wallet, and it's going to abstract away all the complexities of crypto, bringing all of the benefits without all the complications, without how hard it is to onboard into crypto. It's not okay that you have to go through a whole journey of understanding a lot of minusculicities of crypto to be able to get access to these toolings, because in the end what's happening is that even though you can access, or everyone could potentially access, if the barriers of entry are so high in terms of knowledge, then it doesn't work. So Gnosis Personal is going to bring down these barriers. We have Gnosis Business, which is targeting crypto businesses, helping them with the accounting and their on and off ramps. We have Gnosis Platform, where we have, on the one side, we have Gnosis Pay, which will grow using different wallets as distribution partners. We have Circles, and we have Gnosis Chain, which I will dig into it right now. And then we have Collective, where we have Gnosis DAO, we have the Gnosis VC, we have Gnosis VPN, Fileverse, and a lot of other projects that we support, and that are also part of the journey of bringing DeFi into the real world. Let's dig into Gnosis Chain. We're thinking of Gnosis Chain as a V2V platform. Gnosis Chain will still be available as it is today to any user that wants to access through the more conventional channels. However, that has only led us to where we are today. And a V2V platform is what's going to take Gnosis Chain to the next level, to the next scale. It means that any VD effort that we are taking has the objective of giving toolings to our partners, which are mostly wallets, that then they will give to the users. Our VD efforts are divided on 3 main areas: centralized exchanges, stablecoins, and other fiat ramps, bridges, and DeFi projects. Centralized exchanges has its own particularities. We have been reaching out to a lot of them, and we have made some progress and are close to start getting some ramps with them. We have some already in some local jurisdictions like Argentina, mostly in South America, which is obviously the focus right now of Gnosis Pay, where we're heading to grow. But there's also some issues regarding bridge assets, which complicate this task. But let's move to the next slide, please. Let's talk about Gnosis Chain. We're thinking of Gnosis Chain as the stablecoin chain. And we're thinking of this based on 5 pillars. Gnosis Chain is neutral. Gnosis Chain brings utility and accessibility. We bring liquidity and tech advisory. Assume you're a stablecoin or stablecoin issuer and a local one. You have to think who you are prioritizing for your launch, which chain. And then you have 2 options. You can go with a chain that is very closely aligned or even developed by a stablecoin, by an already existing and very large stablecoin, or you could prioritize Gnosis Chain. Who are you prioritizing? Let's say that you are a Euro stablecoin issuer and you're thinking about deploying on Plasma. What happens the moment that Tether decides to issue a euro and prioritize the euro stablecoin and to grow it? Your whole business dies because you're relying a lot on your distribution partner that suddenly has no incentive to give you and to push you. This is why Gnosis Chain has a better offering than other opinionated ones. Utility and accessibility. With Gnosis Pay, we're giving stablecoins a use case. We're giving stablecoins distribution. Stablecoins can be used on Gnosis Pay. It can be used as on-ramps to Gnosis. And because we will have so many different stablecoins in different parts of the world, they will suddenly have the remittance use case or using Gnosis Chain as their settlement network. Liquidity. We are providing stablecoins with liquidity, and we are improving this every day. And finally, tech advisory. We have been around 10 years, and we know how to help them to grow on chain. We already have integrated EuroE, GBPE, Frankencoin, BRLA, BRX, IDRX, and SARP. Some of them are like BRX, IDRX, and SARP, which is from Indonesia and South Africa, are not liquid yet. They have been deployed very recently, and we are ongoing through the onboarding process to be able to provide liquidity, but this is just a matter of time. We're also in conversations with Agora USD, with GBP issuer, with Turkish lira, Philippines peso, Mexican peso, Czech koruna, Polish zloty, and a bunch of other stablecoins. And 1 year from now, we're gonna be definitely this stablecoin chain, not because we're gonna have the highest circulating supply of US dollar stablecoins, but because we will be the stablecoin with the highest local currency stablecoins, with the highest number, and where they are actively being used for things. Next slide, please. Let's talk about bridge integrations, which is another part of our core focus. We're aware that there are still some issues. However, we're already in a much better place than where we were 6 months ago. We have integrated Relay, Bungee, Symbiosis, Near Intent, Squid, Lucid, Swaps.io, Crosscurve, and the bridge. And we're gonna have Agora USD soon live, which it's not a bridge itself, but it has embedded a CCTP-like product, which allows you to move AUSD around, and which can be minted and redeemed one-to-one with USDC and USDT. Obviously, it's not directly bridge, but it will be used as a bridge too. And we have ongoing discussions with Across, but we're also waiting for their B3 deployment, and it's taking some time. So it's in the end up to how long it takes them. Next slide, please. Thanks. And then regarding DeFi strategy, we are focusing on the one side in improving liquidity. We are always looking for more capital efficient access. We are going to improve our liquidity providing strategies. And then we're also talking to solvers of CAU and aggregators to make sure that the routing is correct and that all the liquidity that is in place is actively being used. And then we are also focusing on creating and providing better or the best risk-adjusted returns. I think as Gnosis is one of the cases. We have Aave, which has very attractive yields in euro, but because we are subsidizing it. We're gonna bring Athena to Gnosis soon, and we need to generate local currency yields. And this is where G Euro comes in. G Euro has embedded the stability module, the stability pool, which allows users to get the yield that borrowers are paying. And it's a lot more capital efficient to Gnosis to incentivize this pool and to grow it than you doing it through Aave, because it has a reflecting strategy. We will also have Morpho soon, which will be also used mostly for local currency yields. And we have DevX, which is a prep DEX, which will be integrating Gnosis, and will also provide higher yields for that wallets can then integrate. So this is mostly our strategy. This is how the euro fits in. We know that there's a lot of questions from you guys on a lot of different topics. Before we jump into them, I would like to open the floor if there's any question regarding this presentation, and then sure we can jump into the questions that you have already made on the forum and on Discord.
Yeah, we have a ton of questions, which is great. So we want to move a little quickly here, but we do have a bunch of questions from YouTube. There's one question here about the yuan. Are there any plans to integrate the yuan?
We're obviously not against it. We don't know any issuer, but obviously, as you said, it's certainly something important, and we are going to make the efforts to have them there. We are not opinionated on having or not having it. We want to have everyone. It's just we're not in touch yet, but we will definitely reach out.
Okay, we'll take one more, and then we're going to move into the general AMA. Backed Finance is rolling back B stocks in favor of their new X stocks. What is the Gnosis roadmap for that? This could be a big stepping stone for taking TradFi on chain.
And then it talks about collaboration with Aave. I think the main challenge here is how to provide liquidity. We have incentivized it, yet the liquidity execution was quite bad, which means that we didn't get a lot of traction. As we are certainly interested in having liquidity on RWAs. The number one step is to find the most efficient way to do it, which is part of the ongoing efforts. Regarding a collaboration with Aave, there was an AIP or a proposal on Aave that passed Snapshot initially, but then the risk providers of them decided that it was not it was too risky for them to list BCSPX. Morpho, on the other hand, is, I mean, obviously it's a permissionless market, and it will allow us to have liquidity with this kind of longer tail assets. So yeah, it's certainly on the roadmap once we are able to create deeper liquidity for it.
Okay, we have more questions here, which we will get to at the end if we can circle back and we have time. So thank you so much, Julian. I'm going to bring up Friederike and Stefan onto the stage, and we're going to jump into this AMA. Stefan, how are you? Great to see you.
Great to see you too, John. Doing very well.
So the first question we have here is about Gnosis Pay. What are the plans regarding privacy on Gnosis Pay?
Yeah, good question. So that, of course, is a big concern of ours. Right now, just to recap how the setup is, whenever a user is spending, we deduct at the moment of spending the amount that the user is spending from their safe that is associated with their card. And there are a couple of issues with this. One is it's visible on chain when a user is spending and also the amount the user is spending. And then there's another issue, simply associating any kind of on-chain wallet that you have with the account on the card, which obviously has a lot of like details in terms of you can profile like, okay, where a user might be or like what kind of products user might buy. And with Gnosis Pay V2, which is we are currently working on, which is making progress very fast, and we hope to release until end of this year, we try to remedy actually all of those issues. So what we will do is like a user will be able to top up their account, but will not have to like access a user save at the time of spending. So instead, what we do is we have basically a virtual balance in our backend, and we can basically treat the deposit that the user has done as like a virtual deposit where we can internally calculate how much the user has actually spent, and then we enable a user to automatically top up their card whenever a certain limit has been reached. Like, for example, if you spend more than $500, then automatically we can top up your card from any kind of DeFi positions you might have. And that will become like a standard offering with the Gnosis Pay that all our partners can use. Right now, you have already this feature, recharge feature in Zeal, which is great. We improve on this, enable more DeFi integrations, and enable the possibility for not having to trigger this based on on-chain events, but based on the spending that we trace in our own backend. And then there's a third part, which is disassociating wallets that you have with the account. And for this, we are working together with a team called Bermuda. They have been developing privacy pools, which are also compatible with smart contract accounts, which is a main differentiator to what has been previously built by other teams that are building privacy pools. And we plan to, in the future, when they're ready and when we are ready, integrate into the offering such that a user can do a deposit from any wallet via a privacy pool to their card without associating those two wallets with each other. So this is how we try to remedy these three main concerns, which are, of course, super important in order to scale to a large user base.
And just as a reminder, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X, and we're also streaming in our Discord server. So if you have any questions, please just share them and we will be sure to add them to the list here. So moving on, there are many critiques. There have been many critiques about liquidity on Gnosis. What's the strategy with major centralized exchanges? It's been years. Are we still waiting for Binance, or do you prefer not to go down that route?
So I think Julian can partially answer this question as well. I think that different topics here that we are touching upon, like one is the listing of Gno. Gno is actually listed on most of those exchanges and as tradable. The other is, of course, integrating Gnosis chain into those exchanges to enable deposits and withdrawals directly from those. We're working with a lot of small exchanges. The big exchanges are a bit difficult. I think, Julian, you can give a comment on how our work has been with the big ones.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we are talking to a lot of decentralized exchanges. With the smaller ones, we have made some progress, and there's more coming in the next couple of months. The larger ones, they are either requesting a lot of money, and mostly they are not happy allowing withdrawals of assets that are not natively issued on chain, which means that we would end up having or paying a lot of money just for enabling withdrawals of GNO, which is probably not really worth it. If we could enable withdrawals of USDC or maybe even ETH, that would be one thing. But then what would happen is that users would need to, if a user wanted to exit to Gnosis, they would need to buy GNO and then sell GNO, which ends up being costly in terms of fees and on seepage. So it defeats the purpose. So long story short, it's an ongoing effort, which will be solved once we have native stablecoins on Gnosis.
Great. Okay, moving on here. One key way to boost liquidity could be looping GNO, LST, and DeFi protocols. When can we expect progress on that front?
Yeah, that's a distinct question on the lending markets that we are supporting, specifically Aave, now Morpho is also coming. Yeah, like it has not been like a top priority of ours. And I'm also not sure what liquidity issue like should be addressed here.
Yeah, I mean, we have talked to Aave, and regarding Aave, it's really up to them. They're not, I mean, initially they were very open to it, and then after a while they didn't prioritize it. I think like with the deployment of Morpho, this will become a reality. It's not also something that it is super interesting to the DAO. Of course, if you are a GNO holder or you are staying in GNO, it is interesting for you because it's free yield. However, there's always someone on the other side that has to provide the liquidity of GNO for these looping strategies to actually work. And then it's a question of who is going to provide this liquidity. And if it's the DAO providing liquidity, then it's just effectively the DAO subsidizing GNO loopers, like LSD farmers. And I'm not sure what is the point of that, other than subsidizing a few farmers, right? Yeah, that's the main reason why it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, next question. Big competitors are rising. How do you see Gnosis positioning itself successfully? My guess is that most are focused on the US, so maybe we should focus elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yes, there's a lot of competition coming up. I think we have been very early in the card business, in the crypto card business. At this point, there are a lot of crypto cards. And the obvious question is how do you differentiate yourself for Gnosis Pay, but also for Gnosis Chain? And yes, like the question is already hinting at this. Yes, our strategy here is to not go where everyone else is, but instead go where there's a lot less competition. So we see a big opportunity in emerging markets where crypto is not only seen as a way of like speculating, but where it actually can offer an alternative to the existing system. So specifically Latin America, Southeast Asia, parts in Africa, and try to build the bridges to allow users in those regions to easily access DeFi, access the yield opportunities, and then use the card as a way to like easily also use all the funds that they have on chain in any kind of payment scenario. And we have done this, I think, quite successfully already in Brazil. Now we're looking into expanding into the other markets in Latin America, as well as hopefully soon also in Asia and elsewhere. And the US is, of course, a massive market, which I think it's relevant to sign like partners that are operating on a larger scale. So if you want to get like large wallets involved in Pay as partners of Pay, then they expect some sort of global issuance, which obviously right now actually nobody has like true global issuance, but most people at least include the US into this. And that's why it's still important to have a solution for the US. So we're looking into this actively, like what's the best path for us to offer something competitive. But in terms of where do we see like where we can be strong compared to the competition is going to local markets, supporting local currencies, and make sure that people can have a good user experience in local scenarios like outside of the US. Again, specifically Latin America, what we're currently focused on, but also Southeast Asia and other emerging crypto countries.
Great questions so far. And we got a bunch more here. Do you think Gnosis should raise funds to compete with projects like Plasma or ARC? Should we take part in the race or start a different one?
So right now, Gnosis is still sufficiently funded in order to execute what we want to execute. However, it's also obvious that we have big competition with even more funds. So compared to the likes of Tether and Circle, of course, Gnosis is very small. So I totally see the potential of raising more funds when we have clearly identified opportunities and see the growth requiring significantly more capital. So we will like go about this as we see fit. Right now, we are not in the position to raise external funds. I think we have to. It makes more sense for us to develop the business further with the funds that we already have, and then eventually, consider this as we see an opportunity arising.
Let's do a question about circles. What role does circles play in the future of Gnosis?
So Circles is a tremendously ambitious project, right? Kind of like it's the answer to the question, if we were to reinvent money each day, how would it work? So we are pushing Circles from the Gnosis side. It's deeply integrated into Gnosis Personal, so the wallet that's currently still branded as Metri, and it's a key partner in the ecosystem. Because it is so very ambitious, obviously it's important to make sure that there are success cases where Circles for some reason flounders or kind of drops out of the Gnosis offering. So it's a moonshot, and I think the timing is a great one for a moonshot like Circles. So we're very clearly moving from a unipolar world order into a multipolar world order where it's not sustainable to kind of have international trade denominated majority in the US dollar. We see that the rise of blockchain technology enables more human-centric issuance. And those are opportunities kind of we have to seize, but obviously kind of all the rest of Gnosis can still become extremely successful if Circles doesn't take off.
Could you share a few words about Gnosis AI and what the ambition is behind it?
Sure. Yeah. So Gnosis AI, we started, I think, almost 2 years ago, when I think the AI, AI was just kind of emerging again as like one of the main drivers of innovation. And back in the day, we were thinking about how can we leverage blockchain best for AI, and we developed AI agents that can interact on blockchain, use Interact as means of participating in markets, specifically prediction markets. This is still like an ongoing initiative. However, we also see that this is very early. So it is something that is right now not yet materializing into like a proper product. At the same time, we see other opportunities to use AI as well, specifically in ways of how to support users in interacting on our products. So I think like using crypto has been like not trivial. I think we have made significant progress in how to use crypto, specifically our work on Metri or now Gnosis Personal has been showing like what is possible. But of course, there's one interface which already exists that I think will always remain probably the easiest is just natural language and translating this into actual like on-chain interactions. And that there has been a lot of progress specifically using AI. And that's something that we try to leverage also into our products at this point to make the interaction as easy as possible. There are also lower hanging fruits like, for example, Gnosis Personal is a consumer offering, and consumer offering relates to a lot of support that you have to do. And a lot of support, I think, can be aided with AI. And we see AI as a way to make basically our own operations more efficient. And I think also, well, we use AI in many places. And thankfully, we have hired a few experts that know exactly like what is the cutting edge possibilities to leverage AI in our products, but also internally in our organization. And that's what kind of the Gnosis AI team is currently also focused on.
All right, moving right along here. How is Gnosis Pay and Metri and Circles envisioned to be interconnected?
So Metri, or Gnosis Personal, as it's going to be called moving forward, is our take on a consumer-centric on-chain neobank that offers real people, normies, opportunities that they don't have with their regular neobanks. Part is in kind of the investment vehicles that kind of will be accessible through the wallet. Another part is in being able to kind of own part of the stack, which is something that we don't see in neobanks these days. The usual modus operandi is you kind of squeeze your user for all they're worth, and kind of in a setting where you can be a shareholder of that bank, where you can own part of the rails. Obviously, that is no longer true. So if you kind of look at the history of cooperative banking, spiritually, Gnosis Personal is a successor in that vein. Gnosis Personal is your interface into that world. Circles is a first-class citizen within Gnosis Personal, and obviously everything hinges on being seamlessly connected to the off-chain world, because that's where still most of the value lives, right? Kind of like you have to pay your landlord off-chain, you have to pay for your groceries off-chain. So having these bridges into off-chain finance, be it via Visa card, be it via IBAN transfers, be it via on and off ramps, is super important. So kind of like all these also Gnosis Pay kind of in a way builds the rails for Gnosis Personal to be as useful as possible.
How is the relation between Gnosis and Ethereum evolving in the future?
Yeah, I think where we stand today is we have a very good relationship with the core developers at the Ethereum Foundation and different client teams, simply coming from the fact that we are using the same technology, and we are working specifically very close with the Nethermind team. We try to be in sync also with the leadership at the Ethereum Foundation, and are in regular exchange with them to see how we can support also not only the future of Gnosis Chain, but also of Ethereum. There are a lot of possibilities that we see of how we can contribute. Of course, it has to also resonate with everyone at the Ethereum Foundation and beyond. One topic that has been discussed in the past was the topic of an Ethereum native rollup, which is something where we see an opportunity for Ethereum to again capture more of the layer 2 activities that are going on. We have done a lot of work on client development in the past. We have been doing also a lot of research in client development and how to extend the protocol in the past. So we are also happy to look into the future and see how we can contribute to a future where potentially Gnosis Chain is even more closely connected to Ethereum. Remains to be seen, but we are happy to contribute where we can.
Many DeFi systems ultimately rely on financial contributions. Does Gnosis have plans to integrate non-financial contributions like time, attention, proof of personhood as sources of value in its ecosystem?
So I think, in my opinion, Circles is doing this already. So in Circles, it's important that you are making connections to peers, which allow you then to access new features. And in that sense, we have already done this. I think that the question is then how can you build more valuable things around this? I think the social graph is a very important underlying mechanism for many other things, social networks, social credit. So for me, the Circles play is exactly this part.
After an unfortunate Lazarus-related events, what impact did you observe on trust in the Gnosis ecosystem and further adoption of Gnosis products?
Yeah, thankfully I can say that the trust has not been significantly damaged. So, I mean, specifically on Safe, we did not see a lot of outflows of user funds or company funds. So adoption is actually still extremely high. And I think also because it was a very isolated, very targeted attack, it has not significantly damaged the trust in the Gnosis ecosystem overall. Of course, we've also undertaken all kinds of measures to make sure this can never happen again. So we have not seen, honestly, any significant downsides coming from that single event. If at all, I think it has increased awareness for Safe. But of course, it's important to learn from this and make sure that we specifically can also target the users that are where potentially trust is eroded. So of course, this event was like gave attack surface to those that want to promote custodial solutions, specifically Fireblocks. I think also some other parties, and we have to find good answers to make it clear to everyone. Actually, custodial solutions are not the best way to interact on blockchain, and also offer viable alternatives for those players that otherwise would opt in for Fireblocks and others.
All right. I think this is a more general question rather than a Gnosis chain question. Are there any growth objectives in terms of TVL protocols and addresses?
So the number one metric that we actually look at is number of users. So kind of if you look at total value locked and other measures that are popular in the ecosystem, often they're not very reflective of the actual value created by and in that ecosystem. So kind of we ask ourselves how many people actually have a measurably better experience on chain because of Gnosis, and how many people actually use it because it's a legitimately good product. And that's our North Star metric. Everything else can be gamed, and it's also it fluctuates widely depending on incentives and all kinds of things that are not necessarily sustainable. And kind of by users, we have very obviously kind of if we look at every address that kind of undertakes transactions on Gnosis chain, that doesn't give you a good sense of how many users there are. So we look specifically at addresses that accrue at least $6 in value per year to Gnosis DAO, or could accrue that sort of value. That's kind of above a certain threshold, and number of those users is what we optimize for.
What are the growth objectives? What growth objectives do you have in mind for the validator nodes? So
Gnosis actually has an extremely big and diverse validator set, right? And if you look at the costs for that for Gnosis DAO, it kind of has to be seen in balance with what it does for the ecosystem, right? So Gnosis at this point is sufficiently decentralized for the values that live on top of Gnosis chain. So because I mean, basically transactions are being subsidized by the Gnosis DAO, and ultimately it's a business proposition, right? Kind of like, should this be worth it to the Gnosis DAO? So I don't see us incentivizing additional growth in validator numbers at this point.
How does Gnosis plan to manage risks like low liquidity, limited yield in Europe, and political risk in the United States while scaling its ecosystem? And what's the long-term vision or end game?
So I think one way to mitigate risk is to have geographical diversity, right? And starting with a validator set, which is very nicely geographically diversified, but also in terms of like regions we actually try to operate in. That's why we have the strong focus on local currencies where we see a big potential growth. Right now, if you look at CoinMarketCap, you will realize that 99.9% of stablecoins are US dollar based, and that seems like a very unlikely percentage in the future. So we expect other currencies, especially euro, potentially Chinese yuan, but also all the other local currencies that Julian previously mentioned, to gain some of this market share and allow people to diversify away from US dollar. Like if you look at US dollar this year, right, it has not performed super well. Actually, it's underperformed compared to most of the currencies that Julian was listing. And of course, this is kind of remedied by the fact that most yield opportunities in crypto right now are US dollar denominated. But we can generally see, like, I think a shift, or we expect a shift towards other currencies. And we want to make sure that we are well positioned to capture some of the upsides coming with this by not only providing the home for those currencies and liquidity for it and utility for it, but also we try to ensure that there's incentive alignment. So we are invested in several of the stablecoin projects as well through Gnosis VC, which allows us to make sure that we will have an upside, also a direct upside in those projects succeeding.
With European banks launching Euro stablecoins and Monerium potentially facing sustainability challenges, what is Gnosis's broader strategy to stay competitive and ensure long-term viability?
Well, I think there's different layers that kind of this question can be answered on. I'll try to answer it on the values layer. So if you look at blockchain technology and kind of like what most of us actually got into this game for, it rested on the core tenets of agency and shared ownership and permissionless innovation. And I think we're at a fork in the road where blockchain is in danger of becoming an infrastructure upgrade for Wall Street. And in a way, kind of blockchain might make it more efficient to operate a bank and extract value from users, where we had hoped that this new technology layer could herald kind of a paradigm shift, right? So I think we kind of have to explain to people and make it viscerally known to them that the world could be different, and they could be their own bank, and they could have much more agency than is given to them by the incumbents. And that is definitely a fight that we're willing to fight. Obviously, we're also in the game with kind of, I think there's different things that kind of like need to happen, right? Kind of like you need composability between different stablecoins. You need protocols that kind of integrate all of them. But I think where I kind of see us coming out on top is in terms of how we see the users not as customers to be squeezed, but as stakeholders.
What's the plan with Gnosis Pay rewards?
Yeah, also good question. So high level, the plan is, we made some small adjustments to the existing rewards program. We extended it to even higher tiers. At the same time, we will introduce a cap, like a monthly cap on the rewards that can be paid out. Those are just measurements that basically all of the card programs have. So we're just following suit to what other card programs also have, specifically also crypto card offerings. Then in the mid to long term, our goal is to not have this like one global rewards program, but instead we are trying to turn Gnosis Pay into a true B2B play, where our partners actually have agency on how rewards are being designed. So this can still be a cashback program, could be also something else. High level, it will be like we define, like Gnosis defines what are KPIs are relevant to us that generate revenue for Gnosis DAO. And we will give some incentives to the partners so they can use those incentives to incentivize the users to do those actions that actually contribute value to Gnosis DAO. So it's in some way just making this program more decentralized, more agency for our partners to execute this, because they should know best what their users want. And this like very global program is likely to not be efficient. And that's why that's the measure that we're going to take.
What is the long-term business vision?
Yeah, so there are like multiple value streams that we can tap into with Gnosis. So that comes from the fact that we are one of the few companies that has the entire vertical stack developed in crypto, from wallets to exchange software to the underlying network itself, to the on-off ramps, and all of those single parts will be able to contribute to the value stream if they have sufficient adoption. So right now, our full goal is still like just increase the adoption of Gnosis Pay. We're launching Gnosis Personal soon, increase adoption for Gnosis Personal, increase adoption for Gnosis Business, and enrich the ecosystem around Gnosis Chain to have more and more like potential value streams where the DAO can tap into. And potentially, of course, hopefully enabling Gnosis Chain to have many parties like Zeal and Picnic and many others to tap into the existing infrastructure and build new value streams. So as Julian also said already, like remittance is potentially something that can be also done very effectively on Gnosis Chain. And there is obvious way how we can benefit from this through liquidity provisioning, through on-off ramps, and many other side effects coming from this. So long story short, like increasing adoption and then making sure we have like ownership in all the parts on top of the network and beyond Gnosis Chain as well, where there can be value accrued. That's why we also have Gnosis VC, which obviously invests, or we try to invest in all the parts that we are not directly building ourselves, to make sure that we also have an upside in the stable coins, in the on-off ramps, and other wallets that are also building on top of us.
There's a few GNO related questions here. What asset reevaluation strategies are planned for GNO? So
there are some proposals driven by community members in the works. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but you can expect something to be shared very soon.
What additional incentives might there be for GNO?
Well, it depends on how we see fit, right? So incentives, we're not giving out incentives for the sake of giving people GNO, but incentives are for like making sure that we have long-term, we're reaching long-term growth objectives, which should ultimately lead to higher value being accrued to Gnosis DAO. So as I mentioned, the cashback program is one of those. We're incentivizing liquidity also for certain stable coins right now. And you can expect, there will be many more opportunities, but they will be probably not only driven by Gnosis directly top down, but they will also be driven by our partners. We have another GNO question. You kind of just answered it, but we'll include it anyways. Any planned solutions to increase liquidity in stablecoins and GNO itself pairs from and to Gnosis Chain? Yes. Okay, we have a question about the DAO. Curious to hear about how Gnosis 3.0 will reshape DAO governance long term.
Yeah, so the function of the DAO is very much to allocate funding, right? Kind of like, and it allocates funding not in tiny chunks, kind of like granular decisions, but kind of it allocates funding to organizations that the DAO feels will contribute to the growth of the Gnosis ecosystem. So I expect this to be driven much more by results and kind of what these individual companies actually build for the Gnosis DAO, what the success of this is, and so on. So I feel like we're in the very beginning stages of this. Kind of we're seeing an increasing number of good proposals from different teams who want to contribute to the ecosystem, and I think this is a fantastic development.
Will we get any alpha on how 3.0 ties into real-world asset flows?
So, like, of course, our expectation is that there will be a lot more real-world assets issued, or we see this trend anyways happening. I think for Gnosis, we have to make a decision of how much we want to become a home for all kind of real-world assets, simply because there are not insignificant liquidity requirements to make it really worthwhile. We have been a strong partner to Bakkt in the past. That's also why we have had liquidity for some of the assets at very favorable conditions to Gnosis DAO on Gnosis chain. We will have to see, basically we have to pick our battles, right? And the problem that I see right now is that real world assets, even though we were very early, finally the big guys also all woke up to that potential opportunity, and now we see the big exchanges actually also all working with Bakkt, which is good for us because we are a big investor in Bakkt. But on the other hand, also just creates a massive competition on the offering layer. So yeah, I think we have not made any decision on this, but we have to evaluate how much money we want to spend on this to also create a competitive layer for those assets. Right now, we focus on the next thing where we see a head start, which is the local currencies, which are also tightly connected to Gnosis Pay. But we will see. Potentially, we can also work more closely with Kraken through the relationship with Bakkt. But there are basically a lot of open questions which I cannot answer right now.
And we are at the hour. We've had a lot of really great questions. And if we missed any of your questions, we have them here. I have them written down. And we will continue to do these AMAs moving forward. So if we didn't answer your question now, we will certainly get to it in the next AMA. I just want to thank everyone for making the time. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Friederike. And thank you, Netrim, who's not on stage, but is from the Karpeki team. We didn't have time today to go over the updates from Karpeki, but we will do that next time on the AMA. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.